Hello, everybody.
Nice.
Welcome. I'm here with Philip Gladek, the CEO of Spectral. Huge congratulations on this last funding round, which is what we're here to talk about.
Thanks.
Nice to see you. How are you doing? How are you feeling with all of it?
Yeah, feeling great. Looking forward to the next chapter. Yeah, exciting times.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I thought what we would do today is kind of take a little bit of a bird's eye view, talk about kind of the history, where you guys came from, where you are today. I know you have already grown to quite a substantial company here, and what your plans are for the future. I think it would also be really cool to talk about your experience in onboarding this new fund and getting going with it. So,
Great.
how about we start with that? Where did Spectral come from? Where did it start, and how long ago is this already?
Yeah, so I think it's been a bit over 8 years now. Time flies.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started up actually in 2015 as a spin-off of our sister company, Metabolic. To give a little bit of context there, my sister, Eva Gladek.
So it's not just a sister company; it's a proper sister company.
It's literally our sister company, my sister's company, and of course with broader stakeholder involvement. But I came actually to the Netherlands in 2012, and I was there from the beginning, helping her start up Metabolic. And then in 2015, we set up Spectral to be fully focused on accelerating the sustainable energy transition. And so, that was how we got started. And in the beginning, we were actually focused on a broader set of activities, looking at actually sustainable utility systems or micro utility systems for energy, water, sanitation, focusing more on the core resources that you need to lead a healthy, comfortable life. Though over time we decided to focus on the energy challenge because in the end that was perhaps the most urgent for us to address as society. So hence Spectral specialization in the energy domain.
Yeah, and so I mean, the energy domain is a massive domain.
Mm-hmm.
So what specifically did Spectral set out to do, and why was that the important piece, and how is it what have you learned over those 8 years to get to where you are now?
Yeah, so in the very beginning, we were actually, as I mentioned, building these micro utility systems also for off-grid applications. So at the start of Spectral, we were actually prototyping and building mobile solar power stations with solar panels and a big battery on board to be able to provide power for temporary applications or off-grid applications. So actually my day looked very different than it does now, going to the workshop every day, welding steel and building machines essentially. But over time, we always had a passion and interest for not only the hardware, right, but how can you actually better integrate that hardware into the broader energy system and actually leverage its capabilities to have a positive impact. So we ended up focusing more on actually the energy management systems, the layer of intelligence on top of the hardware to do what I just said, right? To have it not only be able to provide some energy to a temporary application, but also to be able to help, for example, balance the national network, the electricity network, and to be able to deliver other kinds of services, which in the past were only done by large conventional power plants, based on fossil fuels. So
yeah, you guys were disrupting that in a way, and then a number of years ago, you guys stepped into the real estate game, right? And you started working with buildings to try and create that connection, right? Can you say a little bit about that evolution?
Yeah, exactly. So going into the energy management space, right? That's also a very broad domain. We saw that actually there was a huge potential within real estate, within buildings, to optimize and improve their efficiency, while at the same time, of course, making the indoor climate more comfortable. And so that was actually the beginning of our journey into the real estate space, where we took some of the knowledge that we had developed from being able to control and steer things like battery systems towards applying that to heating, ventilation, and cooling. And that was also well, in the end, right, buildings are one of the largest sources of primary energy consumption. So that's where, as well, we can make the biggest impact in reducing energy demand and, yeah, in the end, making the whole energy transition more feasible.
Yeah. I saw a statistic the other day that, 36% of the end energy is used in buildings and 30% of that is wasted, which is that in line with your
Yeah,
research
exactly.
and your ideas?
Yeah, so I think
Somewhere.
it depends on where you're looking, which city, which geography, right? But indeed, somewhere around the 30 to 40% is what buildings are responsible for in terms of the total primary energy use, which is huge.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's incredible how much is actually going to waste through just suboptimal control of the heating, ventilation, and cooling. Because ultimately, most of that 36% that you mentioned is actually also used for space heating, the biggest single source of energy consumption. So if we can really reduce demand there, well, the impact potential is huge.
Yeah, massive. And it's amazing when you're walking around these cities at night, how much of it is still lit up and these buildings are just on doing what they're supposed to be doing, or not what they're supposed to be doing. They're just on when they shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, definitely. So that's specifically where we actually started in terms of eliminating energy waste in buildings, and that of course broadens towards hey, how can we actually help the real estate sector further decarbonize and sustain,ify their portfolios, also through just collecting data, understanding what's happening in my buildings, which are buildings that are underperforming, and of course then focusing on implementing interventions in those assets.
Yeah, amazing. And so where are we now? I think entrepreneurship is not easy. I think it comes with its challenges. It comes with its ebbs and flows. So, I mean, strong enough that ABN AMRO Sustainability Fund has now given you guys, an investment, which means you're at a certain critical mass now. So, yeah, where are we? How is it going?
Yeah, we're at a very exciting time in our development. I think, we started off in the first 7 years of our company as being fully bootstrapped, so without any external investment. But
That's
really,
amazing.
It's been quite a journey. But yeah, that also allowed us to really develop our products closely with our customers, closely with the market, because in the end, you have to build, directly, products that customers want to buy, right, to finance the further growth. And now we actually have an opportunity to, using the funding we've received from ABN AMRO SIF, take a step back and have a more also strategic development and growth trajectory where we're actually, looking at how we can best leverage those funds to, make sustainable impact and continue also growing internationally. So that's now where we're at in terms of looking how can we best leverage now these additional resources to make the biggest impact for not only Spectral, but of course, being a mission-driven company for society at large.
Yeah, amazing. It was I was speaking to an entrepreneur the other day, and he said something really, really profound. He says, when you're bootstrapping, as long as you can keep the lights on, nobody can stop you, right? And then the moment you get funding in it changes the dynamic, of course, and it changes the way that you do business in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about the ABN AMRO fund and what was it that attracted you to that fund? And what was that process to get going there? And I guess the promise that you've made with them.
Yeah. So I think for us, we were very one of our important criteria was to find an investor that was very much aligned with our mission and vision and focused on sustainable impact. So we went out into the market, right, and talked with many different parties. And in the end, we selected SIF because we felt they were the best fit for us in terms of, having a long-term investment horizon, not looking at, a short-term profit maximization and an exit as you often see in the VC world, right? And well, it's all in the name, right? The Sustainable Impact Fund, given that their core focus is really on making investments that have both social impact as well as financial returns. That was also a fit. And of course, also with our counterparts at SIF, there was a good personal connection. So these were some of the things that, some of the ingredients that led towards us making a deal and continuing in the collaboration with SIF. So yeah, that's.
So the promise is actually not about like exit; it's about building sustainable business and really making that impact that you guys are striving for.
Exactly, yeah. Because I think one of the things that is different perhaps with working with a party like SIF, in this case specifically SIF, compared to your more traditional VC funds, is that VCs are often organized in a way that they raise money, they have a specific fund, which after a certain number of years they simply need to liquidate and return money to investors and continue and with the next fund and the next fund.
Which that pressure is heavy too.
Yeah, which creates an implicit pressure to at some point exit, especially if you're entering that fund at a later stage. Whereas SIF is organized a bit differently. They invest, of course, from the bank's own balance sheet, and there isn't the same kind of inherent pressure to sell and move on as you see with a lot of the venture capital market. So that was for us. I mean, those are important criteria because we are very much a mission-driven organization, and an exit in itself was never our objective. Long-term sustainable impact was always the driving force behind why we started Spectral and what drives us and the team as well.
Yeah, wonderful. How many is that team?
Now I think we're with 83, 27 nationalities, so quite an international crew.
Bootstrapped to 83.
We bootstrapped till I think around 65-ish, and last year actually we did a crowdfunding for debt financing. So we got a bit of debt financing to help us already in the next stage of growth, and this was our first equity round. So the first time we have now an external investor other than the founders who have to date been the shareholders.
Well, and in your entryway in your office, I saw your timeline video, which I think is quite cool, and it shows you kind of how the company has progressed over time. And I think you were at 30, 2 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, no, the growth has been quite rapid. I think since 2020, I think we really started growing on average, I think 2 people a month or so. A lot of exciting stuff, and of course, very much necessary to continue in driving this transition because, there's a lot of work to do. Not only Spectral, but many organizations are. We all need to give it a push.
Yeah. So what are the primary products right now that you guys are selling to drive that impact? And then we'll talk about the future as well. But I think what are the primary products now?
Sure.
Where our audience can come and buy, right? And start working with you guys.
So I mentioned already, right, our work in the real estate domain, and that is encompassed by our platform called Brighter, which essentially has 2 core pillars that we focus on. One is ESG data management. So as I mentioned,
hot topic at the moment.
Definitely, but helping our clients who are mainly real estate investors collect large amounts of data across their portfolios, utility meter data, but also lots of other data from their assets, and to be able to use that to, as I said, benchmark performance, but also to report towards their investors or for regulatory reasons. So that's kind of the starting point of gaining insights into how is the portfolio performing from a sustainability perspective. And then we have the other pillar, which is Brighter building optimization, where we actually go into the building, where needed, install sensor networks so we have better data and measurements from how is the climate in the building. And then we actually take over the control of all of the heating, ventilation, and cooling systems. And using AI-based algorithms and other approaches, we're actually able to On average, I think if you look at our total portfolio, which is now around for buildings that we optimize, around 500,000 square meters that we have here in the Netherlands.
Substantial.
Yeah, so it's also growing rapidly. But we've recently hit this milestone, or are about to hit this milestone of 500,000 square meters. And on average, we're saving, I think, around 28% on an annual basis of all of the HVAC energy use. And we have some cases where we save 60+% of the building's total annual energy demand. So if you can imagine, the average buildings that we're controlling are large, 10,000 square meter kind of offices. They're 30% reduction or up to even 60% reduction is a huge amount of energy that's being saved. So we're very happy with the impact potential there, and of course also delivering a highly positive business case for our customers. So that was Brighter. And then the other part of what we do within the organization is focusing on really the energy sector. And that is covered by our platform called Stellar, which is where we control and optimize large-scale wind, solar, battery plants, and other assets, also behind-the-meter systems to help with problems such as congestion in the grid. And actually, if you look at currently our work within the Dutch energy market, we have something around 10% of all of the onshore wind and 10% of all the large solar plants connected to our platform, as well as somewhere between 30 to 50%, depending on the data you use, of all of the big battery systems that are actually used for balancing the grid. So, looking back on it in 2015, we embarked on this journey and just, started learning about how can you use a battery to help balance the frequency of the network. And 6-7 years later, we're controlling the majority of all the batteries, doing that in the Netherlands, and now we hope to take that abroad as we plan our next steps to grow internationally.
Was this something that you could foresee, that you were going to be able to have that level of impact in the system, or was it always kind of like, let's see what we can do?
No, it definitely couldn't foresee it. I mean, like I said, it really started as just an idea, right? Which I think at that time was even, there weren't many practical cases showing, that it's actually being done, but it was more a theoretical kind of researchy topic. Yeah, well, in theory, you can use batteries and do these kind of applications. And I also didn't have an energy background myself, so I was a bit of a self-taught engineer, and I had just been, reading about all of this stuff. And so definitely at that time, no, I could not have predicted where we would be some years down the line. But yeah, it was incredible to see that, through the dedication of the team, but also especially working with our clients who are in the end the ones investing and putting these assets all over the country. We were very lucky to be able to work with them and find the right opportunities that now took us to where we are today.
Yeah, and it's so unique, right? It's so funny, right? We were at Aquatech Amsterdam last week, and it was all about water. We were talking with one of our partners there, where the goal is really to create an end-to-end data analysis of water, kind of from production and refinement, or pulling it out of the ground, to cleaning it up and having it how it circulates. And I think Spectral is really, really unique in being able to do that already for energy. So I think you guys should be so proud of everything you guys have created till now. It's amazing.
Thanks. We are.
So the promise that you all have made with ABN AMRO, the investment fund, is sustainable growth, making sure that you're doing things that impact the environment and impact society. What does the future look like? What's the goal?
Yeah, so in terms of talking about commitments, right, I think part of the agreements we have as well involve us achieving or striving for certain KPIs or targets, which are largely based on making an impact, right, in terms of so some of the metrics I already mentioned in our chat now, right? We have a certain target of certain number of square meters of buildings to optimize, and a sort of growth trajectory that we've plotted out based on our business plan, as well as number of megawatts of renewable assets to connect to our platform, and of course those all translate into CO2 savings and greenhouse gas reduction. So we have now actually defined, whereas in the past we were of course pursuing growth and making an impact, but the targets we had set for ourselves were less clearly defined or less concrete, and so now we actually have an extra push to really set the bar high and go for it. So that's a little bit how this will impact also our organization in terms of the alignment on certain high-level objectives that we have together with the team.
Yeah, there's a bit of a check and balance on there now.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and it's good to do because it really does create the right basis for aligning everyone to work towards those objectives, work towards those goals, but also for us as an organization to measure how we're doing and to hold ourselves accountable, which is something that we of course we're doing, but not in such a structured approach, right? Yeah. So it gives us again a little bit more of a push to really measure and hold ourselves to those targets that we've set.
Nice. And what was that acquisition of funding process like? Was it everything you expected, or was it very had it been something you had done before?
Well, no. So this was our first equity round. As I mentioned, we did a crowdfunding round a year before, last year, but that was a very different process, much less involved, I must say. So we also hired some advisors to help us who specialize in equity financing. So that was very useful to have that support. But it did take certainly longer than we anticipated when we started the process, which was last December. So almost.
Okay.
So it was 11 months.
And was it longer for you, or they said this is pretty normal, or was it?
No, I think maybe we had an optimistic timeline in mind. But no, it's mainly that just in practice things take a bit longer than you would originally perhaps desire. And also, I think when we started off, I think the timing in the market wasn't necessarily the greatest because, high inflation, the whole Silicon Valley banking mini crisis, let's call it. And of course, in general, rising interest rates. So all of these things culminated into less liquidity, less sort of action happening in the investment world, which was also something that we observed, but luckily based on Spectral's track record, based on the fact that we were driving a fourth system transformation and really showing that potential in also our numbers, we had still quite an interest from the market, but we've heard also from other parties who are starting to fundraise that it was a lot more difficult, or also from our advisors who were busy in this space, as of this year, in the beginning of the year, the market was definitely cooled down compared to perhaps times in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are your biggest challenges right now? What are the things that you are working on now to overcome? How can the community help? What is the aspects that are playing right now?
Yeah, so I think for us, now that we've acquired the funding, right, myself and also the rest of our team can really zoom out and plot the strategic course moving forward. And I think for us, the challenges we face, I think, are quite typical challenges for fast-growing scale-ups, right? We need to continue developing our organization, especially building out certain teams like our sales force, getting ready for that international growth wave, and at the same time, formalizing more internal processes because the teams are now too big to just be able to grab people, get in a room, and talk about a project or various topics. So focusing on more asynchronous communication and making sure that we can efficiently do our manage our growth, be more efficient, faster with delivering projects, and that's I would say the core focus from an organizational perspective. So those are some of the next steps in the.
And when you talk about this geography expansion, where do you guys focus on? Where are you going?
So that's still being fully defined, but Europe, of course, is our core focus as a let's say a broader market segment, and probably the countries sort of in close proximity to the Netherlands are the ones where the next steps will be. We already have some actually opportunities in Belgium, Germany, Poland, UK. These are some of the markets where we have where we see a lot of interest, but certainly not limited to those. So we're at the moment sort of defining where with which products is the best fit for our international expansion.
Cool. And you look for, is that direct to buildings and to these power grids, or do you go through partners, or how does the ecosystem grow?
Yeah, very good question. So I think a big component of our international growth will also be our existing partners and clients, because many of them already have international reach or portfolios. So on one hand, we expect to sort of piggyback a little bit on already their presence internationally. And of course, at the same time, look strategically where we think market conditions are most ripe for our product propositions. And the sort of crossover of those two will probably be, ultimately where we decide to focus on our international growth. But we are also actually planning on working with certified resellers or partners who can actually leverage some of the technology we've built and apply it in their own customer ecosystems or in their own contexts. So that is also an evolution which our products are taking, where initially we were doing everything right. We were onboarding all the projects end-to-end responsible. And while we still do that, and in the short term, that's still our main focus, what we see is that over time, a lot of the tooling we've built to make that whole project delivery very efficient and automating a lot of the steps can actually be given to partners who can then leverage that and be able to apply our technology or use our platform to deliver projects abroad. And in that way, we think we can scale even faster and wider by building out an ecosystem of partners with whom we would work. But that is a mid to long term transition, which we hope to achieve now with the first partnerships that we're working on.
So build business with your platform kind of thing.
Exactly. And of course, we had to initially just do it all ourselves because, well, we needed to learn from the process, figure out what are the pain points, how do we resolve those, how do we build the tooling to make this whole highly complex process into a more simplified set of steps that you can train a wider range of different people or competencies, and also remove software developers or control engineers from that whole onboarding process. So that was that's been a big focus in terms of where we were what we were working on in terms of our product developments.
Nice. So if you're interested in becoming a partner, get in touch for sure. So where can people follow this journey that you're on? How can they follow your progress? How can they follow kind of your thought leadership? Where would you direct them?
So good question. I think, well, one of the channels would be the Smart Building Collective, where we hope to also next year collaborate more with your organization on events and on also some knowledge building and sharing activities. So that's, I think, one of the ways in which some of what Spectral's doing will hopefully come forth. But we're also going to be looking at presenting and being active at broader range of different events. I think LinkedIn, of course, is one of the channels where we're often posting about projects or our updates. So I think that if someone's interested in following Spectral and what we're up to here, I think following us on LinkedIn would be a good place to start. And from there, of course, linking to various articles or blog posts or white papers. We recently also hosted a webinar. So a lot of these will also be continuously happening throughout the course of the year and into the next year and beyond.
Very nice. Very nice. So yeah, we'll put some of those links in the comments, and you guys can definitely follow along. Thank you so much for this insight and your time. And I know you're a busy man trying to make all this happen. So we wish you all of the success and luck in making this happen. But it's been a joy watching it so far. So congratulations.
Thanks a lot, Nicholas. Thanks for the interview, and thanks for watching. And yeah, looking forward to the next time we can interact in a setting like this.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.